peace, my beautiful souls. So, not sure. Okay, whatever. This is my experience on my second ayahuasca and Chakruna ceremony. So, this one was a whole lot of different things, but overall, exactly like the way it ended was exactly what I needed and what I was looking for coming to do all this. So in the beginning of this one, it was physically a lot more intense than the last one. This one took a little longer to hit, right, mentally, emotionally, but the nausea started. Then like I really had to go to the bathroom, so I went to the bathroom. There was a ginormous spider in the bathroom. I was freaking out. The spider was freaking out. We made our separate ways, and I went back in there. When I went back in there, I was like just feeling really bad, like I really had to throw up, but it wasn't coming up. So I kept tossing and turning and tossing and turning, and then I was like, maybe if I keep moving and keep getting up, it'll help it come out. So I finally start throwing up. Before that though, I was like going in loops, right, in spirals, which this is okay. So one thing that happens to me when I take plant medicines is I go to the God self in the way of seeing everything and knowing that I've lived lives a whole bunch of times and that I'm gonna keep continuing to live these lives, and right, but usually it's in a like a dark sense of like what's the point and why, because we keep living the same life over and over and over again, cycles, different as different people, different beings. But it's like my head, when I do that, it connects to the collective consciousness, but the collective consciousness on the side of darkness and like despair, depression, distraughtness, sadness, evil, like all the dark sides, right, the dark things. Even though I know and trust and believe that there's a whole nother side that can prosper just as much as this side prospers, you know, like the hell on earth, heaven on earth can prosper. But it's like when I do these trips, it gets more so stuck in that. So this is going to be a long one, because so when I'm doing that, when I got like stuck in that loop, when I went in that loop and that warp, I was like, okay, it was a lot. So I started throwing up, and when I'm throwing up, I started like laughing and laughing and kind of crying at the same time, but not really crying. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this feels so familiar. And I'm noticing when I start throwing up, everybody else also is doing that at the same time. Like I'm hearing everybody do the same thing. And then it's like when I throw up more and when like it goes more intense and calms down, the facilitators, they're singing and whistling, but they're whistling and singing in the same waves, right? So then I'm finally done, and I lay back down, and then it starts happening again. And then again, I'm like breathing, and I'm like trying to control my breath to try to feel better. And again, it's like when I breathe, everybody else again is doing something, breathing louder or coughing or throwing up in the same wave and manner that I'm breathing. And again, the facilitators are like also going in that wave with song and with whistle. And I remember in my head thinking like, I don't like how this feels. Like it felt like I was connected to everybody's energy, but in a really low standpoint, like a low vibrational energy that I didn't like, and I didn't feel like I really resonated with and connected with. And so I remember I'm thinking like, I gotta get out of here. Like I don't want to feel this. And then also, I don't know if you guys ever watched the movie Sense8, how like those 8 people are connected. It felt like that was about to happen, and I kept seeing like everybody like kind of like coming towards me and obviously they weren't really, but that's what I was envisioning. And I was like, no, I'm not dealing with this shit. Like, I'm not trying to be connected with these energies. And no offense to none of the people that were there, but I know energetically we just think differently. And I say that in the way of, again, a lot of people are like, no hope for humanity. They're still in certain phases of their self-love journey that, like, they're not, whatever. It's an energies I did not want to be connected with. And I kept hearing, like, my guides and Mama Ayahuasca and my intuition, the Most High, everything telling me, like, you gotta get out of here and you gotta finish the rest of this journey by yourself. Like, you cannot stay in here. And, like, if you stay in here, you're going to, again, be stuck in that loop, that cycle all over again. And I was like, I don't want that. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do. And then I'm noticing when I'm starting to think, okay, you gotta ask if you can go. And then he's like, as soon as I start thinking that, he starts saying everybody's name and asking, like, what they were feeling or something. And then he asked me, and I think I said I'm fine. And then I was like, you gotta ask, I was like, they and I and my guys, right, we're saying you have to leave before it closes, before they close it. Because if they close the ceremony while you're still in there, you're going to be a part of that loop. You're going to stay a part of that loop. And I was feeling so scared because I don't know if you watched one of the first videos of me talking about it, he was saying, like, you're not allowed to leave the ceremony. Once the ceremony opens with the people it opens, it has to close with those people too. And again, think about connections, think about energy exchanges, energy ties, soul ties, all that. And again, I'm not wanting to be connected with that. I'm not. And then I'm gonna backtrack a little bit later, but so I'm like, they're like, you gotta do it now. And I'm scared and I'm scared and I'm scared, and I'm like, you know, fear is an illusion. There's nothing to be scared of. You're protected. If you leave, you're going to be safe. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to be fine. And mind you, on the top of the temple, the ceiling, there's these sigils. It's called an algis. It's like a Celtic or something rune, one of those sigils, right? But that one I paint my face with it, my neck, my body sometimes. I haven't done it in a while, but it's a symbol, a sigil for protection. And I remember the first ceremony I noticed it, and this one again, I looked up again and I noticed it, and I just keep hearing them, you're protected, you're okay, but you gotta get out of here. You gotta get out. And so I was like, I said, like, I just asked, I was like, can I go to my room? And he said no. And I was like, I sat up, when I asked, I was kind of sitting up, and I was like, okay. And then, like, I fell back, not fell, but like I went back down and fell in that loop again. And I was like, no, you got to get out of here. And then I was thinking in my head, like, again, you're the creator of your reality. You want to change the world. And I say that in the way of, I want everybody to stand in their power, know their God self, know that they are the creator of their life, right? Change the world in the way, taking it from, again, people thinking we have to be in these, like, not to say we relive patterns and cycles, right? But a lot of people think it's always going to be like the negative, the downfall, always, right? And even the facilitator the day before that, or actually that day early in the rising when we had the meeting talking about the previous ayahuasca ceremony, he was saying, like, how the world is disease and tormented with, like, mental illness, right? But he was saying, like, people go to healers, they don't get better, they go to doctors, they don't get better. But he never, like, switched it. And I was like, you don't think that's gonna change? Like, I was like, I believe it's gonna flip. Like, people can actually change. People for real can heal. And he was like, then he started talking about how people just, like, look for power and try to connect with the spirits just for power and don't realize what they're doing. But the way he was looking and the way he was saying it was off as fuck. So anyway, so I was thinking about that too, and I was like, again, if I stay here, that's the cycle I'm going to continue, and I'm trying to do different. I gotta get the fuck up out of here because I'm not trying to be attached to these energies. I'm not trying to close this out with these energies, right? So he said no, and then in my head I'm thinking all that, and I was like, nah, get up. So I started grabbing myself and I said, I'm going to my bed. And he was like, you can't go, you can't leave before we close the ceremony. And I started walking anyway, and I feel like the pool, and I feel myself getting really scared because he keeps saying like, you can't go. He was like, if you go before the ceremony closes, if you go before the ceremony closes. He's like stuttering the more I'm walking. And then like I stopped at the door, and he said, if you go before the ceremony closes, the process will just continue. I said, okay. And I closed the door and I walked out. And then like I remember still feeling a little scared. And then I was like, all these thoughts started flooding in my head, right? I have my bucket of vomit and we're supposed to throw it in the toilet. But let's backtrack a little bit to a lot of things I've learned over these last couple of years of the awakening. When we pee, poop, vomit, things like that, that's supposed to go straight into the earth. It's not supposed to go into the toilets. The toilets, okay, think about like water is a portal, right? Water is in the toilets. The toilet, the sewage system goes in a cycle, and it's an energy thing, if you get what I'm saying. I know some people are going to get what I'm saying, and other people are going to be like, whatever, like, or they're not going to get it. But, and then also think about, they recycle that water, clean that water, we shower with that water. Anyway, it's supposed to go in the earth because the earth gives you back. It's supposed to, you're supposed to put these things in like your garden per se, right? Or whatever, because the earth is going to give you back what it needs, what you need based off of what you're putting out, what your body is putting out and telling it needs, right? So anyway, so I kept hearing, you have to put it in the ground. You got to put it in the ground. You can't put it in the toilet. So I put it in the ground. And then I went in the room, like I went into the room, and when I walked into the room, it started feeling like my body was shedding layers and layers and layers of like mental anguish, disgust, like I can't explain to you what the fuck it felt like or what it freaking felt like. But I got in the bed, and then it was like whoop, I fell back into that warp of those thoughts that it's gonna be a cycle again. And then there was a voice. It wasn't mine, and it was like, wow, you did it, you walked out, I'm so proud of you, like you did it. But I'm like, and then I start seeing like the temptations of like giving up. What it kept telling me, most of y'all know, I don't say sleep. I don't say I'm going to sleep, because to me that insinuates going back to sleep into the matrix, sleep to the BS. Like you fall back asleep. You're not up anymore. Like you're not privy to what's really going on in the world and all these other things, right? So it kept telling me, just go to sleep. You just need to go to sleep, and you can wake up and you can start all over. And then it's like showing me all these different lives I get to live, but it's again showing me like sad endings and all these relationships and stuff like that, and just ending like fake happiness or temporary happiness. Then it's ending, and just like you can just start over. Then it started showing me like dead on the bed, right? Like dead. My body had let go of all the you know, when you transition, your body releases everything, right? And it was showing me that, and it was like, you're gonna be fine though, like it'll start over, and they'll take care of you, they'll take care of your body, they'll clean up, it's gonna be fine. And I was like, that's not what I want. So then they're like, what do you want? And I'm like, I want to be happy, like I want to have a beautiful love, beautiful life, I want to accomplish the goals I have in this life. And then again, it's showing me all the ways I could just go to sleep and start over, right? And I'm like, no, like that's not what I want. And then I'm trying to remember as much as I can, because I promise you in between all this so much more stuff was happening, but I'm trying to remember the biggest things, right? So then I start hearing this song, I believe I can fly. And then I started laughing, because when I was a young Ren, I used to get made fun of because my first name, you guys, I go by Taina, but my first name is Ivelisse. So people would use Ivelisse for I believe in that song, and I used to hate it. But when I heard it, it made me happy, and I started laughing, and I started singing out loud. And at that point, I started talking out loud, and I was like, I am worthy of this life. Like, I want to come back as me. Okay, let me backtrack a little bit. When it was saying you can come back as somebody else, and before the song started, I started thinking about the Barbie movie, and The Wrinkle in Time. If y'all watch the Barbie movie, she is the Barbie doll in the Barbie world, in the fake world, and then kind of has an awakening and starts thinking about death and thinking about doing other things. And in the end, it goes like she goes to not Mama Aya, but basically Mama Aya. She goes to this elderly woman and says like she wants to be a human, and the lady is like showing her like, okay, but you can experience this and that, blah blah blah, and she ultimately chooses that because she's choosing to choose the path that she wants to and live and feel. And then in the Wrinkle in Time movie, the little girl, the young girl, is like going through different portals, through different dimensions, and she's thinking ultimately like she wants to come back as somebody else, as something else. And in the end of the movie, the it is tempting her and shows her this other version of her, this better version of her, but it's a dark version, no heart, no love, not probably physically no heart, but no love and just darkness, right? But it's the better version. And then she ultimately decides, no, I'm worthy, like I love myself just how I am, and I want to come back as me. So I did end up seeing Mama Ayahuasca, but she turned into so many like different women in my life, and me, and just everybody, because Mama Ayahuasca, Mother Earth, God, everything is everything. Anyway, so I started thinking about that too. But okay, so then I started hearing the song, so then I started singing it out loud, and then I started giving myself affirmations like, and like I can have this life that I want, like I am worthy of this love. And then some other stuff happened that I'm not about to put in, but I was like, okay, you gotta get up, you gotta turn on the light, you gotta, like, you can be in the light, you are worthy of being happy, you are worthy of being seen. And then I start getting up, and then there's a voice again like, oh, but just stay in the dark is so beautiful, which I believe, yes, through the darkness you find the light, the darkness is beautiful, right? And then so I go to lay down again, and I look at the ceiling, and it's like black and white, and I'm like, yin and yang, balance, you need this, I still need the light. Like, I've gotten so used to the dark and so comfortable in the dark, because I do believe, again, beauty comes from the darkness. And I've done a lot of shadow work. I've had to go into my darkness, my dark side, and this last couple of days has been a transition of that. I had to do that to bring out the light in me. And I was like, okay, I get it, I did that, the darkness is beautiful, I'm grateful, but get up, it's time to be in the light. So I turned on the light, I went to the bathroom, I looked in the mirror, had a beautiful experience in there, and then yeah, there's more, but this is what I want to tell. And then the next day, today, that night, I decided I'm leaving, because I didn't like how that whole thing happened. And then, yeah, I didn't like it. So I was like, tomorrow I'm going to tell them I'm leaving, because I was supposed to have like, what, 3 more days there, but I was like, no, like, this experience. And then also, when I was doing those affirmations, my whole body, I felt just so happy and so excited, and I really felt and saw the life that I have been envisioning for myself, but like so real. And I ended up crying to my friend that night, but tears of like pure joy and happiness, and really feeling love. And mind you, my intentions this ceremony was to feel, because I've been feeling kind of numb prior to going into it in general. But this specific ceremony, I really asked Mama Ayahuasca and the Most High and my guides to let me for real feel. And I could be in my head, but I said I wanted it to be less in my head, more in my body, feeling more connection, more love. And that's exactly what I got. And I felt like the blockages, and again, when I was going in there and I felt that shedding, listen, I felt it coming off of me, okay? And still giving grace and love to that dark side of me, because it is important, right? And again, finding balance. Also, stuff came up about the vegetarian thing, because that's a big question I had. There's a couple questions I had going into there, and intentions, and they were clarified. And even with the eating meat, and I feel like really bad and guilty with the animals and stuff, right? But it's like, again, ultimately all these animals and everything is me, and in this, like, you're still here to have this human experience, so I have to find a balance. And then I asked, but it was hard for me again, because the animals, I asked, like, how could being vegan or being a vegetarian be bad, right? Nothing is bad or good, but how can that do me wrong? And then it showed me like a vision, not to say that vegan and vegetarian food can't not be bland, but it's like, a lot of people get comfort out of certain foods in fast food restaurants specifically. If it makes sense to you, like, I need that balance. I still need, again, that human experience to have fun. And I was getting told, like, I need to start dancing more, I need to start watching funny videos more, and like not guilt trip myself, watch movies more, eat those things every once in a while. And there was one other thing, watch scary movies, because I've cut myself off with this journey. I've cut myself off from like watching scary movies. Like, I've been trying my best for a long time with the fast food, not the meat and stuff, because I was like, that's not right. But I need the balance, and I'm like literally depriving myself of something that's a part of the human experience. I'm here to be a freaking human and have these experiences, you know, and not be so spiritual and think that the spiritual needs to be a certain way. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's a balance. It's literally a freaking balance. And then so I was like, okay, and I've been thinking about it, but I don't know if I'll actually do it, but we'll see. But I do need to also ultimately know, like, I am protected is something they kept reminding me, right? And I can do this. Like, I can do and live the life that I want to live. And so, okay, so the next day, so I go to him in the rising. Well, I went to his wife first, and I asked like where he was at, and then she didn't understand what I said, and then he walked out at the same time. So I walked to him and I said, I want to leave today. I want to go home today. And he was like he looked kind of shocked, and he was like, okay, well, we need to talk about it first. Like, you have to have breakfast first. We have to talk about it before you go. I said, that's fine, we can talk, but I know there's 2 guys leaving today at 11. I want to leave with them. And he was like, okay, but we have to talk first. Breakfast is at 9 o'clock. We just have to talk first. I have to know why you want to leave. We just got to talk first. He was like, there's two guys leaving today at 11 o'clock, so you can go with them. I can get you in the car with them. And then in my head, I'm like, I literally just said that, but I was just like, okay. So I walked to my room. We had breakfast, and then eventually he came to get me to talk. And he was just like, okay, so first let's talk about your experience, and let's talk about why you want to leave. And I said, well, first and foremost, I want to leave because my intentions and what I came here for, the questions I had, the things I needed, I got last night. And I said, but one of the biggest reasons I want to leave is because when I went to leave the temple, you were saying that I couldn't, and I didn't like how that felt. I said, to me, the point of doing things like sitting with Mama Ayahuasca or plant medicines or any of these things like that is to lead you to enlightenment, lead you closer back to yourself, to the God self, to your intuition, to your spirit guides, and to trust that, you know, because most people go there because they feel this, for whatever, everyone has different reasons. That's what I said. And I said all of those things, everything in me was telling me I had to get out of there. And I felt an energy that I didn't want to be a part of. I didn't want to be connected to, and I had to get out of there. So I did. And I was like, and you kept saying I can't go, and you were like stuttering, and then ultimately you said, if I go, it's just gonna continue, which it is. And he was like, so he kind of like got upset, and he was like, I told you before, or we talked about it before the first ceremony, once you open, and he's looking at me like this, once you open a ceremony with everyone, you have to close the ceremony with everyone. And I was like I squinted my eyes and looked back at him, because I felt like there was an intimidation start. Like, he was trying to intimidate me and scare me, and I was like, I understand that, but everything in me was telling me I needed to get out of there. And something I was also noticing, those ceremonies are rituals, right? But not everybody has the best intentions also, right? Which is why you got to be careful where you do these things. But ultimately, I'm grateful because the medicine has pure intentions, and the medicine is going to do what it's supposed to do. And also, I'm grateful for my guides and my connection and my ability to connect and hear, because it was already strong for me before, but sometimes I feel disconnected, and for me it wasn't, whatever. So I'm going to trust what I'm hearing, right, from my guides. And they also do their prayers and their intentions, but so do I. And I call on my protection from the Most High I walk with, from my higher self, and from my guides. And I speak to Mama Ayahuasca directly. I speak to Chakruna directly. Listen, do you get what I'm saying? We all got a different connections. Anyways, so he's saying that, and he was like, and I was like, okay, yeah, I understand that, but I had to go. And he was like, well, you know, some people, if they leave the ceremony without it being closed, in a couple weeks or in a couple months, and again, he's got those eyes, in a couple weeks or a couple months, they start having disturbances, they start having spiritual disturbances, and then they're so far away from us, and they need our help, and we can't help them, and they have to come back here and do another ayahuasca ceremony and open and close all together. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be fine, I'm going to be okay. then he's like, oh, well, you know, like, if you want to go to a market and get ayahuasca and buy it there and then do it yourself, you can do that. He's like, I don't recommend it, but you can do your thing however you want. And I was just like, okay. And then he's like, he was like, shoot, I'm losing my train of thought. Oh, he was just like, well, I still tried to close the ceremony with you. I still said your name as if you were still in there, so I hope it worked. And I said, okay, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be okay. And then he was like, well, I'm really glad that you got what you, like, it was a switch up. Well, I'm really glad that you got what you wanted and your answers were answered. Just make sure if you have your own spiritual practices, you continue with that and continue with the diet or whatever. And I was just like, I just felt so disgusted. Like, I almost, before we had the conversation, I thought about saying, like, okay, maybe what I was feeling was a little wrong, but I don't be wrong with these things. Energy does not lie. And mind you, when I was on the phone with my friend last night, the dog came out. And when the dog came out after the ceremony, I felt this like really dark, heavy energy with the dog coming around. And I was like, I don't like this. And I just kept feeling like it wanted me to be quiet. Because in that moment when the dog came out, I was talking about him specifically and what had just happened. And the dog kept coming. And then I turned to the dog and I said, stop trying to scare me. And the dog left and it did not come back the rest of that night. And then that same dog, though, kind of nipped at me when I first got there. And when I was walking to go talk to him that today rising, it did the same thing. And then that dog be switching up, though, because it'll come with me in pet, whatever. Anyways, but it made me think of the shapeshifter stories that people tell me about dogs and cats. That's what it gave me, I swear to you. And the energy felt just so nasty. And so, anyway, yeah. It felt like real, like, fear-mongering that I did not like. And I literally, energy does not lie. And I feel, I'm very sensitive to energy. And it was just a few different things he was saying that like really didn't resonate with me in the other conversation. And then even with this one, the way like he was trying to do that. And then I was peeping too in the ceremonies, the way he was saying people's names, like it was just odd. It was just odd. Okay, my experience with the ayahuasca, with Mama Ayahuasca and Chakruna itself was beautiful both times. It was scary, it was hard physically and mentally, but it was extremely beautiful, and I'm extremely grateful to all of it. Even I would never go back to that specific place, but, and I'm not even telling y'all everything. I wish I could tell y'all everything I saw and felt. And I also didn't tell you guys about the Pandora Starlight hypnagogic machine. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that thing is like a light machine that you look with your eyes closed, and the lights in your brain transmute the lights and shows you different things. It's different for everybody, and you also listen to music. That was one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced in my life, and I want a machine. But anyways, I think I'm gonna end it here. But yeah, I was like, no, I'm leaving. I'm not doing this. And when I tell you I was scared, I was so scared, but I knew I had to do it for multiple reasons, not just for myself, but for my mission or who I am. And then I was thinking about how I really have like a calling in me to be like a shaman or a medicine woman and I was just thinking the way that I would be doing things is so different than what I've experienced. And no shade to nobody in the way they want to do their things, but listen, I'm just different. And yeah, so there was my second experience. I didn't obviously get to do the San Pedro because the San Pedro was supposed to be Thursday, I believe, which is fine because I feel good. Like, I really do feel like what I needed, I got from my experience. So yeah, I love you. See you later.